Hello, I'm Paul.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Filmbusters podcast. The film show with no filters, no prisoners taken, loads of disagreements, but one hell of a love for cinema.
If you want to hear three friends ridiculing each other for an hour or so regarding their taste in films, then you have come to the right place.
In each episode, one of the team picks a film for us to discuss. It could be anything from a recent cinema release to an all-time classic.
So, strap in and get ready to get mad or get vindicated as we guide you through the murky world of being a film geek.
If you like what you hear, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram using @FilmbustersPod. You can also find each of our individual accounts. I'm at Filmbusters Paul.
I'm at Filmbusters Adam.
And I'm at Filmbusters Ben.
If you want to use your eyes instead of your ears, you can also visit the website at filmbusтерspod.co.uk.
And if busting makes you feel good, you can also support us at patreon.com/filmbusters for exclusive content.
Alright, can we just get on with this now, please?
Filmbusters. Benny. I want you to tell us how the Always Sunny live podcast was.
Oh, yeah.
I was hoping you were going to ask that.
Oh, good. Tell us.
It was amazing.
Come on.
Sorry.
Elaborate.
The thing's just broken. Sorry, hang on a minute. Fucking hell, man. This whole thing.
Listeners, Ben is very flustered at the moment. He's come into this podcast in a bit of a rush. His pop guard broke off his microphone.
Everything's gone wrong.
Yeah, he needs a little moment or two to settle into this. So excuse him while he does this.
Straighten out my glasses. Yes, it was amazing. So I don't know how many of our listeners are Always Sunny fans, but for those of you who aren't, you should check the show out. It's on Netflix.
Absolutely.
And for the last 18 months, they've sort of extended their brand, and they do these weekly podcast episodes, like talking about each episode, but also just chatting, and it's become its own beast, which is amazing. And they did these 2 live shows in London and 2 in Dublin. And Jenny and me went to the one on Sunday afternoon at the Royal Albert Hall, and it was such a surreal fucking rush. It was like we were in these boxes, not because we are highfalutin people, but it's like there's the only seats available. And it was just so well done because it was like an absolute fan fest for 2 hours. It was great. So many clips were shown. They were talking about stuff behind the scenes. They were showing bloopers of some of the clips. They played that Family Feud game.
Amazing.
So it wasn't on one episode?
No, it was like a best of. All 4 of the shows have been like a greatest hits type thing rather than focusing on one episode. Then the first half, they had, so the lawyer comes up, the lawyer from Always Sunny, and he's like, here are the rules you need to abide by. He's on the screen. And then Dennis kicks open the Paddy's door on the left, like how he kicked that door open on the podcast. So he just kicks the door through, and they all come out and sit down, and it's just so fucking surreal, man, because it is just like it's just like being in a room with friends. Nothing felt fucking forced. It was
How long did it go on for?
Something. It started at 2:30 and it finished just before 5.
Okay.
So it's a good chunk of time, and they broke it up well by like some of the most interesting bit was them. So this segment, Meg sort of like hosts it all, and for this particular show, what she asked Charlie to do was pick your 3 best Glenn moments from Always Sunny, and then we're going to show the clip and talk about it. And Charlie picked the one where him and Mac are in the supermarket, and Dennis is saying that stuff about, she wouldn't say no because of the implication. And Mac's like, there's no implication. What do you mean by that? And then they had this fascinating conversation for about 10 minutes where Glenn was talking about how he was actually uncomfortable with that scene going into the episode, and that he argued against it, and then the guys were saying, no, you didn't argue against that, you argued against this other scene of Glenn being a bit rapey. And then it went into this discussion of Glenn saying how Dennis, even though the only way that he can bring himself to play the Dennis character the way he does is because he absolutely believes that Dennis would never do any of the things that it's hinted at that he does, like be a serial killer, be a rapist, be a sexual abuser, because he's like, if I believe for a second that he could actually hurt someone or do any of those things, I wouldn't do it. So he's like, it's the idea that he would do it is what
it's like a J
makes
from
it funny.
In-Betweeners.
Yeah.
When it comes to it, he's like chickens out.
Yes.
Yeah, but in a worse kind of rapey way.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it was just, oh man, like it was the ultimate fan thing. I saw a review that said it would be like how it would have been the ultimate fan service, like if Seinfeld had done it in the peak of their run and just got in a room with fans. It was that kind of experience. And then I mean, it got spoiled on Twitter for everyone else. We were lucky to be in the first show, because then Dee comes up on the big screen and she's recording, and it's like, oh yeah, so the guys are just over there without me, and Meg's there, 3 guys, 1 girl, I guess they don't need me anymore, I'm really happy for them. And then she's like, oh fuck this, and walks away from the camera. And then she kicks the door through and comes out, and the crowd went wild.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was amazing. I couldn't control myself. It took totally by surprise when she burst through. I was like, yeah, my arms were up. I fucking loved it.
That's amazing.
And then they did the last
weird.
20 minutes or so was all the songs. So they basically did the whole Nightman.
I saw the bit of
fantastic.
Charlie playing it out.
Yes, that video from Dublin was real good. That was a really good shot in Dublin. I think because you know what a Royal Albert Hall's like. It's like it feels quite, even though it's an amazing venue, it feels quite formal. Whereas they were in Dublin, they were in an arena, so they had that arena sort of like baying crowd opposite them. So I think the sound, there's like a bigger capacity as well. But yes, my God, it was amazing. I don't know, I'd go again because I've been for that one, and I probably, along with the ticket price and the merchandise that I bought, I've probably spent about 300
what
quid.
merch you get?
Yeah.
They had a couple of shirts. Well, we got 2.
Paddy's Pub?
Jenny got one, I got one. No, it's all podcast one. So it's their little faces that they've got on the podcast logo. Jenny's one has the dates of the live shows on the back and their faces on the left, and then my one's says It's Always Sunny podcast live on the front, and on the back it's got their 3 heads around a English double-decker bus.
Oh, brilliant.
And then I've got a hoodie which has one of their Eagle of War on the back, and it says, I can't remember, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it's London underneath or something like that.
Fantastic.
But yeah, my God, that is just, it was surreal as hell. So much fun.
Everything you wanted it to be.
So much fun. There was a moment when they had when they were playing Family Feud, and the question was, name all of the wounds that cricket has. And when all the results were up on screen, like one of the results was just like throat slashed, raped by dog, neck raped by dog. And Charlie was like, if you just take a look at this is what the show is about. But I would say out of the 3 of them, Charlie was like totally just Charlie, exactly as you'd expect. Glenn, I would say, took about 20 minutes to warm up. When he came out, he was a bit quiet, and then, because they got this 4 Walls whiskey.
Yeah.
They brought it out, but it was fucking early in the day because it was matinee. And then after
they were
about
doing
20
one
minutes,
the afternoon afterwards, weren't they? So
the evening, that day, they did the matinee, and they did the evening, and then the next day they were in Dublin. But he got up, and then he was like, let me have some of that, more of that whiskey, Meg. And then he had the whiskey, and then he totally loosened up.
Good stuff. And then Mac was just Mac.
Mac was just Mac, relaxed with his legs crossed. Mac's just overwhelmed by how fucking successful everything is.
I know. Out of all of them, 100% him.
Love him. Very nice guys. One day we'll do it, boys, to our tens, hundreds of thousands of fans.
Where do you reckon we could sell out?
We could probably sell out the local Aldi. Yeah.
I reckon we go for the Palladium.
If we're lucky.
Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should. Yeah,
well, maybe we should move on to what the listeners have actually come for. I'm sure they enjoyed that, but some people probably don't even like Always Sunny and have no idea what we're talking about.
I'm imagining most of our listeners don't.
I reckon enough by now everybody knows what Always Sunny is about. They've either watched an episode or they've seen enough memes on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you haven't, go watch it. Otherwise, let's carry on with the episode. Today, we're doing Adam's pick. Adam, what are we doing today?
We're doing THX. Or is it, what do they call him? Think.
1138.
Yeah. THX 1138.
That's the one. Or Thex.
Yeah, Thex is what they were calling, weren't they?
It was super thexy.
Yeah, Thexy.
Very thexy. Very sexual. Very sexual film it was. They weren't allowed to have Thex.
Oh, yeah, I know.
No Thex.
Perverse.
Yeah.
We're doing that film from George Lucas. It's a 1971 round. But before we kick off and get straight into it, let's just mention our Patreon at www.patreon.com/filmbusters, where you can get exclusive episodes, you can join the family, you can suggest films for us to do, you can even come on the episodes yourself, and it's all very wonderful over there. Adam, what are we doing on the Patreon after this episode?
This is a running theme after last week, our favourite films that contain colours in the title, and this week we're doing our favourite film that contains numbers in the title. It's not sequels, they're not written out, they have to be like this film, basically.
Physical numbers, the actual digits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. It was harder than I thought.
It was, but I just went on Letterboxd and sorted by alphabetical order, and then they're all at the top.
Well, let me tell you, Adam, you've done it wrong, because there's some titles that have numbers in the middle of them.
Oh, yes.
You've only got titles with numbers at the beginning. You might be missing out on some classics.
I think all of mine have got numbers in the middle.
Yeah, mine have as well.
Or the end.
Well, I'm excited to hear. I feel like we won't have any crossovers, surely. I'm going to try and make it that we won't anyway. I've got more than 3, so I can just pick and choose between them, basically.
Me too.
Wicked. Well, go over there, www.patreon.com/filmbusters, and you can listen to that after this episode. But let's move on to talking about THX 1138, and let's do a quiz about it, shall we, Adam?
Yes.
Oh, a quiz.
Okay. All I'm going to say is the quiz was it's impossible this week. I made up the questions before about 10 minutes ago. When I was talking to Paul, waiting for you to turn up then.
Fine. I understand. Go on.
So the scores currently are...
Yes, fine.
I'm in the lead. I am in the lead.
You are a true believer.
You are a true believer.
9 points. Paul
for
has
the masses.
8 points, and Ben has 7 points. The way it works, if I ask them a question, I'm going to ask them 2 questions. If they get it right, they get the points. If they get it wrong, I get the points. Are you ready for the first question?
Yes, fine.
Where did George Lucas get the title from?
His phone number.
Well done, Paul.
Thank you.
It's all the behind-the-scenes info.
Bloody lucky I read that trivia before I came on this.
I was literally like, I don't want to do this because it's too obvious. It's like the first bit of trivia, but I literally cannot think of anything else. And number 2 is nothing to do with the film because I couldn't think of another one.
Christ, it's going to be a Star Wars question then.
I've done this before. I'm going to do it again. What is currently the most popular film on Letterboxd?
Oh.
Why you ask this? I don't care.
It's fun. Let's mix it up.
Mario.
Well done, Ben.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I was going to say that as well. It's 998.
998. Okay. Oh, well, close.
We should make that into a film title.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nice and tight
PAB 998 and make our own version of this film.
Toy it like a toiger.
Toy.
Should we move on to the film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. THX 1138. Let's go.
Let's do it.
My mate has been acting very strange. I can't explain it.
Yes.
I haven't been feeling very well myself.
Yes, I understand.
I don't know, maybe it's me.
Yes, fine.
I needed some Panura last night. I feel as if something
Excellent.
odd were happening to me. Something
Yes.
I can't understand.
Could you be more specific?
The sedatives. I'm taking Atrazine, but it doesn't seem strong enough. I have a hard time concentrating.
You are a true believer. Blessings of the state.
Please forgive me.
Blessings of the masses. Thou art a subject of the divine, created in the image of man, by the masses, for the masses. Let us be thankful we have an occupation to fill. Work hard. Increase production. Prevent accidents. And be happy.
Right, everyone, today we're talking about THX 1138 from 1971, directed by George Lucas. If you have not seen this film, we will be spoiling it terribly for you, so you might want to go watch it and then come back and listen to the episode. Otherwise, just get spoiled like the spoily people you are. Yeah. There's some people who have been in films we've done before on the podcast. Do you want to try and guess any of them?
Well, I'm going to guess that our main man...
Donald Duck.
Mm-hmm.
Donald's only been in one, though, right?
Correct.
He's only
yeah.
been in
One
Waking
recently.
Fright.
Waking Fright, correct. There's 3 other people. I think you're only
Robert
going to be able to
Duvall?
get one. Nope, it's not. We get this off first. Robert
Sid
Duvall.
Haig has been in 3 from Hell.
Yes, that's the second. Shall I just name the other ones? You're not going to be able to get it. We got Irene Kagan. Don't ask me who she was in the film. She was from Bride of Reanimator, and she was a nurse in it.
I see.
And then we got Mr. Jack Walsh, who must be a David Lynch in the Inner Circle, because he was in Eraserhead and Straight
yeah,
Story.
of course he is. He's Pete from Twin Peaks.
There we go. Mr. Jack Walsh.
Yeah, he had a very brief role in it.
Beautiful. And that's our 4 people who've been in episode number 4.
Oh.
Adam,
Yes.
would you like to explain the plot of this film?
Yes. This film is set in the future. It's like Blade
Or is
Runner
it?
crossed with the Matrix. Well, it's probably not the future anymore. And everybody is drugged out of their mind by the government to make them work. And this one girl decides she's going to stop drugging this guy and see how human he becomes and reacts to this world that he is in.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool.
There you go.
Benny, you got anything about this film?
Yeah, I got a little backstory for it. Bear with me. It's not long, but it's very interesting in the lead up to it.
That's interesting.
I wrote this down, so it might sound a bit robotic, but I tried to put this in my own words.
Well, worked for this film.
Yes, it does. Yes, fine. So, in the early 60s, the studio system was collapsing, and directors were becoming more in control of the films that they made. So, George Lucas, when he was a young guy, had a bad car accident, and he gave up his ambition to become a race car driver and became a filmmaker instead. And he became friends with Francis Ford Coppola. He won a competition to shadow Francis Ford Coppola on a film that he was making.
Great prize.
No, it is a great prize, isn't it? And he shadowed Coppola. And while he was shadowing Coppola, Lucas began writing the screenplay for this film, which was based on a short film that he had made a few years prior to that. Meanwhile, Francis Ford Coppola formed this production company called American Zoetrope. You would have seen it flash up at the beginning of the film. And American Zoetrope was this artist-driven production company which just allowed filmmakers who wanted to make films their way to produce them without any interference from studios, no Warner Brothers or anything like that. The ironic thing was that Warner Brothers liked the idea and they financed the idea, which meant that even though it was existing outside of the studio system, the financial backers were Warner Brothers. And the reason they did it was they saw how big Easy Riders Raging Bulls was, and they wanted to try and replicate that success. And
Well,
they
that's the book.
thought,
There's 2 separate films.
what?
The book's called Easy Riders and Raging
yeah,
Bulls.
no, Easy Rider, I mean, not Raging Bulls. I've got the book in my head. So the
Oh, I
first
thought
film,
it was the 2 separate films.
No,
yes.
there's a book that when I read it, because Paul read it. There's a documentary
Yeah.
on Amazon as well, just to watch that if you wanted to.
I thought that was just so happened that's why they called the book that, because those are 2 films that
No, they
started
did.
it.
Well, no, because Raging Bull was towards the end. It was kind of like one of the last films of this generation.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like Easy Riders
Was the first.
set it off, and then when they closed the book, it's with Raging Bull. Anyway,
because everyone blew their tits off on drugs.
so the first film to be made by American Zoetrope was THX 1138.
Okay.
And Lucas was given full artistic control of the film at the age of 25. And Lucas's vision was not to do a normal story, he wanted to do something abstract. And apparently he spent hours figuring the world out. And something that got lost when the film was released is that it was meant to be a film from the future rather than about the future. The whole concept was, what if a film that was made centuries in the future was sent back to us so we could watch it? He shot it and filmed it and wrote it with all of that in mind, but that was lost in the release. And in order to try and make it realistic, he used lots of real San Francisco Bay areas to portray some of the futuristic dystopian societies, where everything is real, but altered slightly to give it an alien look. And he made all of the decisions, such as shaving heads and dressing in white and whatnot. He just thought that would be how things would look like in the future, what things might look like in the future. But what happened next would change George Lucas's career, because when Coppola screened the film to the Warner Brother executives, because they backed his production company with money, he said how proud he was of the film and how proud he was that Lucas had no studio involvement, and he screened the film and everyone at Warner Brothers hated it. They absolutely hated it. They said it made no attempt to explain that it was from the future. It was just some nonsense film that had no structure to it, and they had no idea how to market it. They had no idea how to distribute it, and Warner Brothers lost faith in Francis Ford Coppola and bankrupted him. So Warner Brothers took all the negatives from George Lucas and recut his film, making it 5 minutes shorter, and that meant it was no longer free from studio involvement, and that's what they released in the theatres. And George Lucas was devastated by it. He, for the rest of his career, he refused to make a film ever again for Warner Brothers or any involvement of Warner Brothers. And now the only cut that is really available is the director's cut, George Lucas' director's cut, which adds back in five minutes worth of footage to perhaps contextualize it all a little bit better. And he says he calls it his lost masterpiece.
The corruption.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that is probably the most fascinating backstory to any film that we've covered.
There's also a
that's
big moment
pretty cool.
of like film as well. It's not just a story for this film; it's a story for what was going to happen going forward.
So are you saying that Warner Brothers cut 5 minutes from the film?
Yeah, they cut 5 minutes from the film
It's
and
not
said
that much, really, though, is it?
Yeah, I know. What
No,
5 minutes
but-
could it be?
they cut 5 minutes, but also, so in terms of length, they did more things, but they cut 5 minutes from it, but they also did weird stylistic things, like on the monitors, for example, when seeing people, you saw people, like there was no filter on it, whereas in Lucas's cut, it has that monitor type static-y look on it.
Yeah.
The opening credits, for example, are all just white text on black in the theatrical cut, whereas in the director's cut, it's green, just to give it that more futuristic vibe. And all of the digital stuff that you see, like, you know, when they're working on the robots that look like C-3PO, that's just digitally added by Lucas. They cut that. Well, he added that later, actually, but that's part of his director's cut.
As George Lucas loves to do anyway.
He fucking loves doing that, the idiot.
Okay, wicked. So, Adam, this is your pick. You get to decide what order you want people's first impressions. And,
All right.
yeah, go for it.
I'm going to go first, and then Ben, and then Paul.
Okay.
Shaking it up, baby.
Shaking it up.
So, yeah, I didn't get along with this film. I can see what Warner Brothers meant when they didn't like it. In the world building and all that element of it that's really interesting, but then it doesn't really go anywhere. You're left with this side of it that I just didn't really give a shit about, to be honest. I can kind of see what it's laid out and maybe what it did for like Blade Runners. It's like that kind of setting the tone for what those sci-fi films could have been, and maybe The Matrix got some ideas of this government world that's like an under-leveled secret society. But it's just so boring. It was just not interesting at all. Like at the beginning, you're like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's see how this is going." And then after about 30 minutes, you're like, "This just hasn't progressed," and I'm just stuck here listening to. Because everything felt quite plain, you had to make it exciting. The dialogue, and the dialogue being plain on top of a plain film, and quite a very slow storyline. There was no engagement, and I just didn't care by the end of it.
Right.
But I'll give it props for building its world. That side of it all looked good, but it just needed more content within inside of it.
Very well.
There you go. It's interesting you said that about The Matrix. I thought that as well, particularly the bald heads. It made me think of the moment where Neo comes out of, or any of them come out of their pods and they're all bald. I wonder if some of that was a reference.
Yeah,
it is like an early precursor to The Matrix. It's like decades before, for sure, with certain themes and ideas. And I like the themes and the ideas, but I agree with you. The trouble is, it's too... Because it is all about people who have no emotion and aren't really connected to anything because of this totalitarian government, it's too fucking cold for me to really get invested in anything. Everyone looks the same. Everything, the setting looks the same. It's white room after white room for the most part. And I do appreciate it being abstract and experimental at the time. And probably at the time, it might have been considered pretty cool. Because I don't know what was out in 71 sci-fi wise that was really looking to the future in that way.
2001, which was late 60s, but then...
Is that right? So,
Yeah.
okay, so Kubrick had done that. Yeah, well, so there you go.
But this is a different,
he-
this is a different element of sci-fi. This is kind of like... That's
Yeah.
that's sci-fi off-planet, where this is sci-fi
This is
on
dystopia.
planet. Yeah, it's like fucked up. This is like questioning the system, kind of.
Yeah, and it has good themes, and it's interesting in not quite in the same way that Clockwork Orange was, but it's interesting that it obviously was responding to something that was going on in the world at that time, because this is the second film back to back,
Yeah.
which is about people who don't have control over their desires, their wants, they're being
sex.
suppressed. It's interesting, yeah, but it is too distant. I just couldn't connect to anyone. I was not immersed in it, but it's a strangely unforgettable experience, because I did see this 20 years ago and I'd totally forgotten largely what happened in it, but I did recall feeling a certain way about it, which was like, it was kind of cool, and I always remember the ending shot.
Yeah.
But when I was watching along this time, I was like, when does it get to the good part? Like, there's good elements at times.
Even the car chase is boring.
Well, we're talking. I quite liked that. I quite liked the car chase. I thought that was one
How
of the
about the
better
guy
set
flipping
pieces.
over the handlebars?
Yeah, that was
Which is
stupid
real.
of it. Now we'll talk about it in a minute. But
Flew
It was
into the
real. It was a real stuntman.
Yeah, you could tell it was, because of the way when he hit the car, it really flumped. But it's all very cool. I thought it was all very disorientating. It was very strange and experimental. It was cool on that level, but it's less cool, I would say, 50 years later, and it doesn't really engage me in the same way. I like some elements, though.
Okay. Do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
none
I loved
of it.
both your opinions on it.
I was waiting.
I agree. It has some interesting ideas in like the first 20-30 minutes. Somewhat kind of depressing ideas, and like probably because they're very close to home, but they're still quite interesting. The world being like a sort of prison in every aspect of life, and the idea of like being completely out of control of your own life, like controlled and asking forgiveness from some like fucking robotic, unsympathetic Jesus-like figure.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like kind of get it, like even like your very jobs are building the things that control you, or literally watching and monitoring the control people, and in control of your chemical balance, and even down to a fucking plunger in controlling of your masturbation.
Oh my
It's
God,
like,
that was
that
horrendous
nuts.
business.
Horrendous business. Just seeing his face. It's all very like prevalent, yet depressing. And then I wouldn't really say I was really enjoying it, but it was interesting. And yeah, the rest of the film is just like a pile of shit. Like I just felt like it was droning on, and I kind of just lost sight of what they were even trying to do or say anymore. And then we start getting some problematic moments of being like wide-eyed and speechless when seeing a black man, or like saying that dwarfs smell, stuff like that. And I'm like, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then there's just a big car chase scene and some monkey sharp, and it ends.
Yeah.
It's like, what was that? It's just like totally lost its way. And yeah, that is my first impressions.
Yeah. I mean,
It's an odd one.
It is an odd one. There's good elements in it.
Yeah, there is good elements. Like as you say, Adam, I agree that like the world building, there's something there to enjoy. It's like it's very sterile and cold, but it's like enjoyable to a point, because it's quite unique to itself. And I can get that out of it, but it's just like, well, do something with it. Do something with this world. They're in a fucking white backdrop for half the film.
It's almost like if they made a second one, I probably would give it a go if they made the content within the story good, because what is there is interesting. I know it's been done probably better since, but yeah, it's interesting, and it's enough to think, okay, like, yeah, he maybe dropped the ball in the first one, but there's enough in there to want you to come back, and if they made a second film, let's see what they do this time. But yeah, it's just, I can see why it got panned a little bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know actually what audience reactions were to it. That was how the execs reacted to it. I guess audiences might have liked it because it still has this shelf life.
I could imagine somebody turn around and say, this is my favourite film ever.
I mean, it's hard. It's just hard to get a grip into, because it's trying to make a point by having all these very repetitive visuals, the work, the plane environments, everyone looking like Loomis, because they all look like fucking Loomis in it as well. It's making a point, but the thing is, in making that point, which is look how bland and flat everything is in the future because they are so sedate, it's like, yes, but then if I'm watching a film about that, you need to work extra hard to bring me in. And if the only thing you've got is his mate has told him to come off the drugs and she disappears, give me more than that. Add more mystery to that. Add more element of there's a few of us trying to get out kind of thing. Because it kind of at times it felt like Loomis was also trying to get out, but I could never work him out because they never made him clear what his motive was.
And every scene it was different. Everyone had a different motive, and I guess that's what you wanted to give, but nobody was continuing their character. It was almost like you have to relearn a new character every scene.
I know.
And then you're just like, I can't be fucked with this.
Like, I was so sure, starting the film, I was like, okay, Donald Pleasence is clearly going to be like some authority figure.
Yeah, me too. That's what I thought.
Yeah, he's going to be like.
I thought he'd be like the guy from the Truman Show when he's kind of got power over everyone.
Yeah, like he's over, and I swear, even like it started off the first time you see him, he wanted like the overseers watching people.
Yeah,
so you get that kind of feeling, and then next thing he's like, I want you to be my roommate, and it's like, okay, and then suddenly he just lost his mind, and he's trying to say let's leave, but then he's like, no, I don't want to leave. Let's just go back.
Yeah, I think the idea, it was hard to work out, but I think the idea was that was his job. His job was to listen in and report things. It wasn't that he had any senior role. It was more that was his job that he was given in this society, and he had to do it. Like that, he had his drugs, he had to fucking do it. But that made it more complicated, because when Robert Duvall, THX, is saying to him, "What did you do with La? She came to see you. Where is she?" It's like, was he involved in her disappearance or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
And then she disappears, and when THX is arrested, she's reunited with him briefly, and then she goes again and never comes back.
And then she's like, I'm pregnant. And then we never hear about that again. And then suddenly she's a fetus in a jar.
Yes. I mean, I didn't know if that was meant to hint at the idea that they had aborted her child and put it in the vase.
See, no, I got the impression that that the names are reassigned. They're reassigned. They said, I think the words they used were LUH was consumed. So whatever that means. And I got the impression that they just reused the name and then put it on this new baby that's growing.
Right.
Yeah, so you never die. You just continue to be the same person, and once you cut onto it, they just kill you and start again.
Yeah, and give your name to someone else. It's like there's no individualism. It's just you are what you're programmed to be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or what the name you're given. There was some interesting, like, the idea of these people all like hailing this computer like holy figure that was clearly something that was man-made. So they're all hailing a man-made object, and it's like a snake eating its own tail because they're controlling themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
like,
isn't
that interesting?
That's why this is kind of ahead of its time, because it is that whole thing of us developing tech to that point.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I would say it is 100% ahead of its time. It doesn't go anywhere. The ideas were there, but they didn't do anything with the ideas.
Yeah, but if we watched it 50 years ago, we might be saying, God, these ideas are groundbreaking.
Absolutely. But then it's not. It hasn't got any longevity, has it? Because
it's a difference. Yeah. No, exactly. It's a different. There's a reason that when computers do something amazing now, or scary amazing, I will say, oh, it's Skynet. I don't go, oh, it's THX 1138. Because Terminator 2 and its vision of the future is timeless. It was made in the 90s, but 30 years later, it hasn't dated an inch. Whereas this is incredibly dated. It's the style of filmmaking, man. Perhaps, you know what? As much as I love filmmakers having free will, what this film needed was a studio involved to give it some coherence, some proper structure.
Absolutely. I can see I totally understand Warner Brothers coming and being like, no, this is not working.
Yeah.
Because like it's like he's thrown a load of ideas at the wall. I think he had a solid start, but then he's just thrown loads of ideas after the fact. Like the fact at one point, Donald Pleasance, he goes into a room that's got loads of TV cameras, and they're pointing at the Jesus-like figure on a wall, and it's like, oh, so this is like they're broadcasting this like a TV studio out to everyone.
Yeah,
but it's like, but no, we're not going to explain it.
I know, and it's not interesting enough for you to want to read more into why.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. George Lucas was 25. They gave a 25-year-old complete control over a film.
That is nuts. It's a young age, man.
Yeah. So, like, some of this shit was always going to be half-baked. I did like very much the scene where they're all in what seemed to me to be all the people who were slightly breaking free of their mind control were in that sort of prison cell, but it wasn't a prison cell, it was just white background. And Donald Pleasance is ranting away about stuff, and he gets punched on the nose, and that one guy is almost like sexually assaulting another prisoner who I couldn't work out if it was a man or a woman.
That was Sid Haig, right?
Sid Haig was either that one or the one who looked remarkably like him. To be honest, when the film ended, I was like, where the fuck was Sid Haig? And I had to Google image him to even clock that it was him. I liked that. I liked the idea of all these people who were breaking the mould were all enslaved together somewhere to be told, no, you're a problem, you're an anomaly.
Yeah, they all had like their own kind of ideas of freedom, and they were just kind of chatting, but it's all a bit like there was no kind of cohesive kind of plot to what they were actually talking about, but that's what it felt like. Like Donald Pleasance was as if he was trying to like stir up a revolution, and he's like, oh yeah, come on, we'll leave, because then they'll all like be like, oh, these guys, they're the ones to follow.
Yeah,
but he didn't really have a backbone at any point. He just wanted to go back after they started walking.
He was that typical mischievous Donald Pleasance type character. It felt like he was enjoying a bit of the anarchy.
Yeah,
still only doing British accents though.
I was like, is it? I swear he was a little bit American.
Oh, it sounded fucking British to me, mate.
I couldn't work it out. I think he just does the same accent all along. It's like a mix of everything.
It is. I mean, even in Halloween, I don't think that they ever are like, oh, he's a British doctor.
Lonnie,
get your ass away from there.
See, it doesn't really sound British, but it kind of does sound American. I don't know, I can't work out. But anyway,
it's just the Pleasance language. Isn't it mad that he did this and Waking Fright in the same year?
I know.
I would love to know, like, if he was jumping between the two, because he's the only one who wouldn't have been like, oh, hang on, I have to wait for my hair to grow back out. He could just walk off one set and into the other and be like, right.
Do you reckon he did them at the same time, or do you reckon there was a gap?
I would like it if he did, but I mean, he would have to have flown from between the US and Australia quite a bit. Imagine getting into the mindset of Waking Fright and then having to go to THX and be like just robotic for them. Although he was never really robotic.
I mean, both times he's like donning this kind of chaotic personality. He did feel like a little bit chaotic. Like out of everyone, he was the least kind of down the line. He felt like he had a bit of personality about him.
And you see, that's another failing of the film, is that Robert Duvall is a good actor, and I wouldn't even say, oh yeah, he did well in this. That could have been anyone. He was not compelling to watch on screen, Robert Duvall. No. It's because it was so hard to really gel with it, because it's so unemotional, so cold and like sterile. It's like, well, what am I caring for in this? And so here's the thing, let's try and understand this, right? In a world where they have suppressed sexual appetite to not want to have sex with your partner, why then is he being jerked off by a plunger while watching this hologram porn?
Probably got to still do it at some point, or they may be milking him to like use his sperm to create more people.
Imagine the idea. Oh God!
They probably
Maybe
are. They
were.
probably are. That's true.
Oh shit!
Because that was like some mechanical thing. Yeah.
But they're
Maybe
also
that's what
controlling
that
what
fetus
he
in
was
the
watching,
jar
weren't
was.
they, as well?
Yeah, they were
No,
control-
I feel like he was that was a little bit of a commentary on very ahead of its time, like of the stuff that we watch. Like we like to like dilly dally into like the horror of the world and just watch it, and it like we're all kind of transfixed by it. Like say just watching some guy beat up some guy on the floor, and it's like you're just like you don't want to see it, but you do want to see it. Just like you, it's your dark interest that just kind of wants you to peek in it a little bit.
Now, you know all those channels he was watching? On every channel, all the holograms were black. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that's true.
Why do you think that was?
Oh, that's interesting then, isn't it? Because I don't really know what, but then that makes sense why the black guy they see is a hologram.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously broken free of. I can't like that's an interesting idea. The fact that these in this controlled world where they've created this technology, the technology has the most freedom out of all of them.
Yeah, it has freedom, but the thing that I thought was quite interesting as well about him when they are trying to escape at the end, and he's like, no, it's this way, the way that they came. It's like his idea of escape is to join the real world, but the real world is
true,
their terrible world.
Yeah.
And their idea of escape is...
Did they have to go that way to get out?
They went with the way that he pointed them. They ended up going into that really busy tunnel.
It's like almost like a subway station, like pushing like on the yeah.
Again, ideas, some nice ideas, not fully.
There's no
realised,
fleshing
though.
out. It's the bones of something.
Yeah,
but yeah, the idea. I think that's another thing. The idea of making everyone black on TV. What is that? What are they? What is he trying to say?
Well, it could be one of two things. It could be like another level of slavery.
Yeah, as in the technology.
The white people are the ones being enslaved.
Well, they are, yeah, but also that for this in this 2500, black people are enslaved, and they're enslaved to be entertainers / holograms on TV. That's where they
just for our pleasure kind of thing again.
Yeah, maybe I don't know.
Well, it did feel like a conscious effort to do that. So
yeah, it's a definite choice. Choice.
Yeah, because even when they switch channel and it goes to the black man dancing as well.
Yeah, it's like that old school entertainment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fucking such a gross image, man. That plunger.
Yeah. It is. But also, like, you know, in that state, it would probably give as much excitement as La would, because she was hardly appetising, was she? None of them were.
Yeah.
All the work that he was doing, the job that he was conditioned to do, it was just building more of those like police type
the
robots.
Police officers.
Yeah.
It's like they're building their own kind of destruction. Really, they're building their own control.
Horrendous was that shit? Like when a little bit of radiation or whatever it was got dropped and people died, and that thing popped up. Like there were 242 deaths on their side to our 195. Keep up the good work. That's horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's just everything's just so cold, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no emotion in anything. It's like, carry on working. The radiation hasn't leaked. It's like, don't worry about all the people that have died.
Yeah.
They just get reborn and it starts again.
Yeah, well-oiled machine. It just keeps on going and going and going.
Yeah. See, have you seen the film with Christian Bale? It's called... what's a similar theme where they have no emotion?
Oh, you talk about Elite? Not Elysium.
Begins with E.
Yeah, it's Equilibrium.
Equilibrium, yeah. See, I think it deals with the same ideas, but I believe that Christian Bale and Sean Bean are like enforcers to make sure that nobody feels emotions, and then they break their conditioning. See, that's an interesting take on this story. Because it's like, okay, here is a world with no emotion. You're not allowed to feel emotion. But they bring in lots of unique things like hearing music for the first time and all sorts of elements which actually make it interesting. I don't think it's an amazing film, but I think it's better than what Lucas has done with this one.
It's a fleshed out idea, isn't it? Yeah, it's. I think it's taken some stuff from like the Nazi Party, where they kind of ban artistry and art from certain things, and all art is banned in the equilibrium world, and then people have like stashes of it in their houses and stuff, which is it's an interesting idea, but it's.
I think he spent too long building the world on this film, and he got too carried away in that. Which, fair play, he's done a really good job on, but
you need to link it together.
Yeah, this
as such a massive Star Wars fan, how do you feel knowing that before he made this?
I guess you've got to try it out somewhere, haven't you? He's obviously really good at building worlds and universes and all that stuff. It's just because even when you look at the Star Wars films that he's done, you could argue that the content within them, like what's his name? Who did original Obi-Wan? Was Alec McGuinness?
Yeah.
Wrote all his own lines because he didn't like the dialogue that Lucas had written. It's just like
this guy's just not very good, is he?
Yeah, he can build, he can create, he can produce. He can't direct, and
he needs someone to steady his hand and
like
direct
Indiana
it.
Jones was that kind of level of like he came up with it, didn't he? And Spielberg directed it.
So what? Lucas wrote the script for Indiana Jones.
Well, I think they came up with it together, like the idea and producing the idea and developing where it's going to go and all that kind of stuff, and building that character in that world. And he's done it with like, if you look at his films, he's done like so much producing and like not a lot of directing. And I think that's where
you in that book, Easy Riders Raging Bulls. They talk quite a bit about how Lucas and Spielberg were sort of like the goody two shoes of that kind of era of filmmakers. And it's true, like both of their films they are like the goody two shoes films out of all of that stuff. But I know that Spielberg did Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List, which are dark, but they're dark because they deal with a real thing that happened. I don't think that Spielberg ever did anything as dark thematically as what Lucas did with this. At least Lucas,
absolutely,
because this is also like that's real. That's based. This is made up.
Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of putting your what's it called when what's the thing people looking? Fuck me, I've forgotten the word.
Fuck me, you're not allowed to do that in the world of THX.
What's that thing when people conspiracy theories? It's kind of that world. That's what he's like leaning into big time here.
Yeah.
Weird one about Lucas is he directed part of The Godfather, didn't he? That's all I know.
Did he?
Lucas did.
Yeah, during the bit with the newspapers are rolling when
I remember that. Yeah.
After he gets shot, he did all the newspaper segment bit.
It's not very much. It's not hard, is it?
I know it's not hard. But apparently I can't remember what it was, but they had like a bet on or something like that, and Lucas won it. So Coppola went, "You can do that bit in that film."
Funny.
The interesting thing though is that to have this idea that's so cold and there's literally no heart in it, and then to go on and direct the first Star Wars, which is like very warm-hearted, and it's like the opposite kind of world, kind of. And well, one's the past, one's the future. If we're looking at it from a galaxy a long time ago, whatever they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We lose our heart somewhere along the way.
Reading in it as well. Do you know he does the car chase scene? He leans back and he goes, "Oh, did I hit a Wookiee or something like that?"
Yeah. I saw that on the trivia. I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it
I
either.
didn't hear it. No, I didn't. I think that car chase scene was pretty good because they kind of merged a bit of CGI but with practical as well.
Yeah, it was some type of exciting happening after a film that's been quite mundane for a while.
I mean, that's it. Yeah, you're right. It probably wasn't that good standalone, but
you're never going to remember it, but you're like,
nothing.
Something's actually happening now that...
Thinking about it now, he fucking added those monkeys in, didn't he?
Absolutely he did. And they are fucking stupid.
Stupid.
What's with them loving that
I wonder
stuff?
what the original was.
I think maybe there was no monkeys, perhaps.
But like,
He
there
just
was
crashed.
someone like fighting him. Like, the monkeys were like fighting Robert Duvall on the floor or something. Unless it just wasn't him and they added the scene in after.
Have a look. Let's see. THX 1138 original monkey scene. Because they were monkeys, weren't they?
Unless it was all the people with dwarfism that they took out.
Yes. It would have been. Of course, that's what it would have been. Because that little guy comes in halfway through the film and they're like, oh, he's from the whatever, from the outer sanctum or whatever. That makes sense, yes.
It was all very weird though. It's like what are you trying to say? They were all like, he was all hairy, and they were saying they smell. And it's like, this isn't going to hold up in the future.
No, definitely not. Again, another ill thought out idea from Lucas.
Yeah. Like, there's no reason for it. It's
No.
like, what is the reason for this? And why are they all on the outskirts? Because they've been banished?
Yeah.
Like, what is it? And I can imagine if the monkeys are bad, but if it was loads of people with dwarfism coming and attacking Robert Duvall at the end, that would have been even worse. I think.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because they did try to merge it, didn't they? There was when you just see them, they go through like a tunnel, and it's almost like going through like the back alleys of like this motorway. And then it's like suddenly they're all in like the rafters and stuff, and there's the monkeys with the people with dwarfism all together.
Yes, that's
and it's
true.
like, so what is going on?
I reckon that probably is what the original cut was. Someone with dwarfism was on Duvall fighting him, and Lucas is, as time went on, was like, oh no, we can't be doing this. But credit to Lucas, right? Oh, well, is it credit? Because this ain't the first film, clearly. In Star Wars, he used lots of people with dwarfism.
Oh yeah, true.
The Ewoks.
Yes.
Lots of them. Yeah, but also Warwick.
R2-D2.
Yeah, it's true. I guess you could say it goes hand in hand with this sort of fantasy sci-fi elements, but he arguably gave a lot of work to that community of people.
Maybe Star Wars was to apologise for THX. It's like, look what I did. I need to rectify my behaviour in THX. Hence why I got rid of them all with monkeys.
Oh man,
that's what Star Wars was. After all this time, that's all Star Wars ever was. Just a big
one
apology.
massive apology. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it is a fine idea. It's just not a pleasant experience. I could never imagine wanting to watch this again.
No, never.
Things don't.
There's just
really
nothing.
lead
There's nothing
anywhere.
that makes me want to come back to it.
No,
In
It
the
has-
slightest.
interesting ideas, and that's about it. It's too bleak, and some people could say, "Oh, you have to look at bleakness sometimes." It's like, no, it's just too bleak without
Yeah, there's
any redeeming features, really.
Yeah, no satisfaction in the
the
slightest.
Matrix is kind of bleak, but it sorts it out towards the end, and you don't feel proper depressed
And
by
it
the
has
end of
a
it.
full fleshed out idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean the
And it
second and third
adds
and fourth one
elements.
maybe feel a bit of this kind of level of. But
See, there is in the Matrix that is similar to this, right? Because when they are born, or when they're unplugged, rather, they are bald and they go into those like really dowdy gowns, don't they? And they're in those like gothic spaceships. So that was probably, but funnily enough, that was them being in the real world. But yeah, enslaved by machines. I reckon there was a lot of inspiration from THX.
Yeah,
there.
if it seems like it. Yeah, but then
Matrix is a million
has
times
the
better.
it has the flashy plug into the Matrix, and it's fucking cool as fuck compared to
Yeah.
this.
I would say that my favourite moment though is those confessional booths, and people are like pouring out their feelings, and the recordings are just repeating the same old bullshit
You're a
lines.
full believer.
Yes, fine, go on.
Blessings of the state.
Yeah.
Blessings of the masses.
What? I didn't know what this was. In a few scenes, they have all these like red and blue kind of weird cubes, look like spongy cubes. What the
I
fuck
imagine
were
it was
they?
payment. It was payment for their day, because he goes and puts it
Oh,
into.
you
payment.
put it in like a bin thing, don't they? And it
Yeah, he
swallows
puts
it.
in like a, and it just disappears.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it's either powering his house, or like, do they ever eat? I never see him eat.
No, they have those pill meals, don't they? When she's hiding the pills, I feel
Oh,
like
actually, they do. Yeah, there is food on that plate, though, isn't there?
yeah, they're like blocks of like lard or
Yeah,
something.
it's like tofu.
There you go. That's a
Brazilian tofu.
dystopian future, mate. Get off the tofu.
Get off the
meat,
tofu.
brother.
But yeah, I can imagine it's just that block is basically just to fuel the costs of living, basically.
Yeah, that's it. Literally just to get them through to that next red block.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's some guy in there who looks like he's confused inside that block shop, and he gets led away by a policeman. It's like, I don't know what was happening.
No, I don't know what that was.
And then he gets that. This is the thing they do, right? While he's doing his work, they send him like some kind of thing on the computer that makes him all freeze.
Oh,
and
the
that's
mind
hence
block.
That's why that nuclear stuff is about to blow the whole place up.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that the whole time?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it was because he was wired, plugged in for work, and he had
But then-
didn't he have like a headset on or something at that point?
Yeah, but then they got him in the white room, and they're like controlling his body.
That's true. That was a bit of a silly scene. I got
Yeah.
the point they were making, but it just looked silly, him flipping around on the floor.
Doing all like different positions. I don't know. Another one of the ideas that this wasn't fleshed out.
Well, apparently Lucas included that because after his car crash, that's how he felt he was being treated by the doctors. They were poking and prodding him. But it's like, yeah, fine, but why put that in the film?
Yes, we don't care.
Yes.
Only you care about this.
No one cares about your race car driver dreams, mate. Go and shave that beard off, you idiot. Ridiculous
Very
beard
weird.
on you.
Ridiculous.
Beard on you, George. Especially back then when it was jet black. Oh my God.
I know, it's like a chin strap.
It's too much. Yeah, he looked like Rolf Harris actually, didn't he?
Oh, yes. Now that with his grey hair, 100%.
Yeah. American listeners, you won't know who that is. Google him. You'll find out.
For your reference, Will.
For your reference, we'll know exactly who he is. You exported him to us and you made us the controllers of his fate. Yeah.
Well.
I mean, I don't have too much more to say.
No,
on it.
me neither.
Even the ending, right, when he gets out into that sun, is like it's almost meant to feel like a
Star Wars.
release.
But it's like I didn't feel all that much.
No,
I didn't
it's
feel
like,
it all
of
that
course,
much.
No,
it'll
it
just
felt more.
end
It was
like that.
over.
Yeah,
It was over for
relief
him.
that
It was over for
yeah.
us.
Yeah, it's true.
It just felt like, yes, of course, it's going to end immediately. So
Yeah.
he gets out for no reason.
Lucas didn't have no budget to actually film above ground.
Big sun, though. Very big sun.
Too big.
Too
I thought
big.
it was going to be the sun in Tatooine.
Oh, imagine.
Yeah, that would have been a nice little prelude, wouldn't it?
He comes up to see Luke's parents burnt.
Now, why would Lucas have included that line, did I just hit a Wookiee back there, 7 years before he made Star Wars?
Because he added it in post.
Probably.
Oh,
That's why it probably wasn't there
Definitely.
originally.
You
When he was adding those
man.
monkeys. When he was adding those monkeys in.
I should kill him. I should absolutely kill him.
He loves it. He loves going back.
What a terrible man.
I wonder if he did anything in Howard the Duck. If he added anything.
Just Darth Vader's in there.
Yeah. A silly man. Should we go to final impressions of this film?
Yeah,
Do our
I mean,
rankings?
we may as well.
Go on. You go first, Adam.
I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
Nothing else to say?
Not really. I think we discussed the rest of it. And all of those, maybe 4's are harsh. I was going to think of 5, but looking
Stick
back on
with
it now,
4, mate.
the
Go
only
with what your
redeeming
heart says.
features that we have is the world building around it.
Well, that's hard. I'm not going to go as hard on it, even though I didn't really have a good time. I appreciated ideas and I appreciate the ambition. It just wasn't enough for me to make it a enjoyable watch, so it's a 6 out of 10 from me.
Oh, a 6?
Yeah. You think I was going to give it lower?
I thought you'd go 5. I thought the highest anyone would give it is a 5.
No. 6, little 6.
Wow, we were.
Yeah.
I'm going 4 as well.
Oh shit, you boys
Yeah.
very hard on it.
You want to
man.
bring down that average score, don't you?
No, I was going 4.
Okay.
I've always been going 4.
I was
Wow.
thinking 5 in my head before this, but having the discussions, I was like, yeah, there's not really
Christ.
much in this to make it.
Well, maybe I should have defended it a little bit more. Well, boys, I'll tell you this much. It definitely goes into our bottom 20.
Really?
Because it's a 4.66. Ran it up to a 4.7. It's the only film that has such a score. So this is where it gets placed. It is above the Meg, but below Pacific Rim.
I'd rather watch The Meg again.
I'd rather watch them make again.
Well, I wouldn't. So there it is. It's on new number 8. And do you know what that means?
Go on.
It
What's pushed
means
out?
that on the week that the new Super Mario Brothers is the most popular film of all time, Super Mario Brothers, the Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo version, comes out of our bottom 20 and is survived.
Retribution. Look at that.
Shazam is the new one that is on the brink of coming out of relegation zone. The Super Mario Brothers.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the fold.
Good to see you, brothers.
Video well.
Very well.
Very well.
How are you, little brothers?
I've got to say, we are going down some kind of theme right now, though.
Yes, definitely.
Some kind of
with this last two particularly.
Control.
Yeah.
It's not really Waking Fright, though.
Well, we'll assess when we get to,
we'll
the
assess.
end.
We'll assess. I guess we'll talk about what we're doing next, Ben. What are we doing next?
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, so the thing is, I was thinking, given that we've done 3 films which have been, for the most part, very male-heavy, yes? And knowing that our other patron pick, which will close off this year, is very male-heavy.
Have we got another patron pick at the end of this?
Yes, one of our patrons has chosen to jump on the 1971 bandwagon.
Yes.
I was having a look around and then I realised there wasn't one that I was really jumping out at me, which probably says something about how films were made in 1971. So, we're going to cover a director we ain't covered on the podcast before, who's fucking huge. And you two have both seen this film and I've never seen it.
Oh.
So it's a first time watch for me, but you boys have seen it before. And it is the precursor to Jaws. It is Steven Spielberg and the film is Jewel.
Oh, yes. I had a feeling you were going to pick this.
Again, that was another one that was in my list. But then,
Very
So
good.
that's what
That's
we're
a good
going to
pick.
do. We're going
That
to
is
do
a good
Steven
pick.
Spielberg. We've gone from one dorky guy from the 70s to another.
His little
Oh,
mate.
yes.
I'm real interested in seeing this. I've always wanted to see it and just never got around to it. So I feel like this is the perfect opportunity.
Beautiful
and
stuff.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Great pick. Happy with that.
Ah.
Good one. Lovely.
Very
Shall we
good.
move on to our patrons?
Let's.
Right, so our patrons, they send us what they've been watching, the best and the worst, and we basically say whether it's worth watching or if we've watched it or if we ever want to watch it.
Excellent.
And yeah, if you want to become a patron, you become a patron at www.patreon.com/filmbusters, and you can become a patron just like the likes of Luke Bennett.
You can also join the likes of Paul Mott.
You will also join Francis Cibarini.
You can also join Andy Bishop.
If you can join Ben from Film Vloggers.
You can join Mark and Steve from Movie Drone, who are having their first podcast weekly break in 5 years, I believe it is.
Nuts.
They've done a
Nuts.
podcast every week for 5 years.
Do they record them in batches? Like, or do you
I
reckon
think maybe sometimes.
like you do like maybe one back to back or like 2 in a day? Because that's a big commitment. 'Cause
yes.
that's like no holidays, nothing.
Sometimes they do like 2 in a week to cover the week
Yes.
following if they go away, but they haven't. So will they ever come back? Who knows?
What's
Maybe not.
their excuse for having a week off?
They need to recover from being put to shame by Jamie and his daughter.
Fair enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, who
Right
did
now,
an
I got mentioned in
incredible
that podcast.
episode on the Blob on the
s-
Movie Drone podcast, which you should check out, listeners.
Yes, you should. You should. I've listened up to when the film is about to be spoken about, so because I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, that's what I did. Then I watched it and then listened to the rest.
Very good. You can also join Home Video Hustle.
Yes, you can. You can do it. Luke Human.
You can join Sean Panda Nicholson. Happy birthday for the last few days,
Oh,
Sean.
happy birthday, Sean.
Happy birthday!
I keep need to tell him how
ya.
good his album is. I keep meaning to message him, and I haven't got round to it yet. So I'm
Well, you
sorry,
tell him
Sean,
right-
but it's
you can
very
tell him
good.
right
Tell him
here.
now. Tell
It's
him
very
live.
good. It's brilliant just to put on. It's to calm you. I found like it's a way of calming. It's that very Brian Eno-esque kind of sounding stuff.
Excellent.
So I'll phrase it a bit better to you personally, Sean. But yeah,
A way
Listen,
of calming.
check it out.
That's the name of your next album now, Sean.
yeah.
There you go. Adam
And it's
needs
all
producer
rock
credit.
music. It's all like heavy rock, heavy metal. He goes for next time.
Oh yeah, baby. You can also join Mr. Nerd Revert.
Oh yes, you've also got Julio.
You have Jamie Russell, as we just said.
And you got Katie Nosey from the For Your Reference podcast. Right, so we've only got one patron best and worst this week. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
It's from Luke Human, and he says 2015's The Dressmaker. There's a small cabal of movies that balance deep drama and comedy in such a perfect way that your emotions are manipulated to sway delightfully between both ends of the spectrum. Along with 2020's Riders of Justice, The Dressmaker qualifies. Already having the plus point of being set in 1950s rural Australia, this is further bolstered by an incredible turn from Windsor and a superb supporting cast. Funny, poignant, and thematically dense without being preachy, there's a nice added mystery element that makes the woefully mismarketed movie a really quality piece of cinema. 9 out of 10. There you go. The Dressmaker.
Jenny owns that, and she watched it without me and said that I probably wouldn't like it. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you find that offensive?
no, I think it's very astute of her. She knows that I wouldn't like it.
Fair enough.
She knows you. She knows you very well.
Mm.
Well, I've never heard of it, but I will keep an eye out for it. I do like a bit of Kate Winslet.
She's mostly very good. Yes.
I was wondering where that
Mostly.
sentence was going to go.
You thought I was going to
thought-
slag her off?
Yeah, I thought you were going to
said she
poo-poo
was
my
annoying.
statement.
I think she's good. I do think she's good.
Good.
Okay,
And-
we'll leave it at that.
And lastly, he says, sorry, Paul and Sean, 2022's DC League of Super Pets is as bad as the title suggests.
There you
Maybe
go.
down to the poor voice performances of Johnson and Hart and to the horribly pedestrian plot. A couple of witty moments can't save this blatant cash grab. Go watch The Secret Life of Pets and Bolt instead. Absolute hogwash. It's better than both of those. So,
What
Well, there you
score
go.
did
this
he
is
give
wrong,
it?
Luke. He gave it a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
This is the guy who gave A Clockwork Orange a 6 out of 10, was it?
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
it was.
I know
Luke,
you-
we needed to bring that up. We wanted you to send that in the Clockwork Orange episode.
Yeah, we only
so
saw it after we recorded.
look how I've turned everyone against Luke in this. I've turned everyone against Luke.
Yeah, you've turned the winds
I
against him.
spun it around. I spun it around from my love of DC to hating on Luke for giving Clockwork Orange a 6 out of 10.
He has made an enemy of us with that.
Not really. We love you, Luke. It's fine.
We love you, don't worry.
That's it. That's it for this episode. That's the end of the episode, guys.
Jesus.
That's it. We're done. I look forward to watching the film Duel. I forgot what it was for a second.
The film Jewel, that's right.
The film Duel.
Are we
We actually
recording
really
next?
never covered Spielberg before.
No.
No.
I mean,
We
unless
did all
I'm
the Jurassic
really
Park
missing
films
something.
at one point, but they were not him, were they, at that point?
No.
Yeah, no, we definitely
That
ain't
was
done it.
Colin Trevorrow.
The thing is, most of his are so big and mainstream and
Yeah, you
popular, it's
kinda
like, what's
see
the
it.
point? But Jewel, I mean, I know nothing about it other than the truck replaces the shark. That's literally all I know. And that's intriguing enough for me.
It's a good pick. I watched it a couple of years ago for the first time, and I'll definitely like to return to it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I saw what you both had. You better hide your scores so
Well, it's too late. You've seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
from each other, I mean.
Doesn't matter. I don't care.
Now, who are the big directors that we ain't covered now?
We've done,
We've done Spielberg. Well,
Coppola.
let's
We've done
do Spielberg,
Scorsese.
Lucas. We've done
We've done
Scorsese. We've done
Tarantino.
Kubrick. We've done Tarantino. Have we done Tarantino?
yeah, we
Yeah,
did it Once Upon a Time in
Time.
Hollywood. And we did our favourite films of his as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done Friedkin. And we will continue to do Friedkin. We've done Paul Thomas Anderson. We've done
We've done
Lynch.
Wes Anderson.
The big
'cause
hitters,
no one
mate.
likes
Where are these
Wes
big
Anderson.
hitters?
Haven't done Wes Anderson. Thankfully,
But I
we haven't
don't
done
care.
Wes Anderson.
Oh my god!
No.
One day we will.
Oh man, if one of our patrons give us that, we'll just be stuck with it.
We haven't done Edgar Wright.
We haven't. But I tell you one thing, and I don't know if it's intentional by all of us or not, but generally we don't pick comedy films.
No,
and I
it's
think
hard.
the reason is it's not really, unless they're really layered and complex, there's not a hell of
Yeah.
a lot to talk to.
It's like this bit's funny, this bit's funny, this bit's
Yeah.
funny, this bit's funny. That's what
So
it ends up being.
the Nice Guys is a good example though, because that's comedy, but it's not just a.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's stuff
Comedy.
to talk about because it's a mystery unfolding. Yeah.
But like, if as good as it is, like if we were to talk about Hot Fuzz, for example, I don't think we would have a lot to talk about because it's boring to just go, oh, remember this bit.
Also,
Yeah,
I've seen
for a
that film
film
too many
discussion.
times where it's a bit like, I feel like I've expressed
Yeah.
everything already
Yeah.
at some point in there. Yeah.
I wonder who's a
agree.
big director that we haven't got.
De Palma.
De Palma.
I swear we've done that one.
Yeah.
What film could you guys do
Don't think
where
we
you
have.
wouldn't have to watch the film beforehand? Like Jamie when he came in and did RoboCop.
Scarface, Glengarry. Well, any of my top 10, basically.
Okay.
But I would
like
watch
a
him again.
random film.
A random film. without needing to rewatch it.
Yeah, I feel like you just like I've seen Hot Fuzz so many times just because it's been always on TV.
Layer cake.
I watched that again the other day for the first time in ages.
Yeah, love it.
Well, we're going to fill one of those blind spots next week with Spielberg, and then it will open the floodgates. Everyone, you patrons, you can pick whatever you want. You can fill those blind spots, get some big directors this way.
Exactly.
Let's do it. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Or join the Patreon right now at www.patreon.com/filmbusters and come join the Patreon episode. Speaking about Adam.
Numbers.
Filmbusters.